Ballad of the Nameless Traveler by Tomek Piorkowski, a fantasy epic in rhyme. Text copyright Tomek Piorkowski 2012. Part 4. Once upon a time in a hot desert clime, it seemed that happy peace and good fortune were to be had, undisputedly, by the Sultanate of Kaikobad. Harun al-Rashid ruled it, and Jafar was his vizier. The people loved their sultan, and praised him far and near. Jafar as a minister was most capable, and he kept the city prosperous and stable. The Sultan Harun had no son, therefore had no heir, but he had a daughter whose beauty was beyond compare. Though many suitors attempted her heart to win, none could win over Kaikobad's Princess Yasmin. And this pleased Jafar, who secretly loved her, and was glad each time she a suitor did defer. But one day the son of an emir came, young, handsome, sweet. Ali was his name, and Yasmin and Prince Ali found each other constantly, enjoying the pleasure of each other's company. They were falling in love, clearly, something Jafar resented dearly. But though inside he was tearing apart, Jafar kept secret what was in his heart. The Sultan had spent his youthful days doing good in great courageous ways, and one of his great early deeds was the driving out of the necromancer Alhazred, then vile beyond doubt. Alhazred performed experiments on the dead, and sometimes even on the living instead, and Harun did against the necromancer battle wage. At great risk to himself, he drove away the dark mage. Where the necromancer fled to, no one knew where. For a while it seemed he'd vanished into the air. In fact, he made a home in the buried city of Imrim, amidst the fallen pillars and the ruins so grim. There he certainly did not shirk from carrying on his gruesome work. And one night, when the planets were in the right conjunction, he decided to raise a jinni without compunction. Towards Kaikobad he sent the jinni in flight, that Harun may feel Alhazred's vengeful spite. The planetary conjunction of Mars with Saturn made this a bloodthirsty jinni, both strong and stern. Before it rolled a thick darkness that swallowed the light, which made even the bright noonday seem like the night. Like a black storm it towards Kaikobad flew, across the desert it malevolently blew. Now in Kaikobad all was going well in the city, the marketplace was abuzz, and the day was pretty. Everything seemed fine and fair, happiness was in the air. Then the jinni came crashing through the city gate. What a terror it was upon it to spectate! It was as tall as a 3-story building. Its eyes were cold, cruel, and unyielding. Every step it made shook the ground. It roared with a horrifying sound. The people fled with shrieking cries, terrified of the jinni's size, and of the strange dark cloud that covered it like a shroud. The jinni began to smash buildings all around, leveling everything down to the ground. Sultan Harun saw the chaos from his palace window. He cried, "Surely 'tis the work of Alhazred, my old foe. Quick, bring me my sword and put on me my armor. Grim though it seems, I shall face it with no less ardor." With his silver shield and his silver armor bedight, he rode out like a lone star upon a bleak night. While all fled away from the towering monstrosity, Sultan Harun alone towards it rode with bravery. The Sultan's charger became unsteady as it drew near. The fog of darkness around the jinni filled it with fear. So the Sultan abandoned the horse that he rode, and alone with his sword into the darkness he strode. He was swallowed like a candle into a raging storm, as the jinni's cloud of darkness around him did swarm. The jinni laughed, and its fists together it slammed. It mockingly called out, "Welcome, you shall be damned." 'Twas a glorious battle, full of excellent skill, as the Sultan fought the jinni with all his magic will. 7 great wounds the Sultan did inflict against his enemy in this conflict. But though the wounds were deep, yet it was not enough, and with each the jinni gave a pounding rough. Finally the Sultan was trapped under the jinni's foot, and slowly he was crushed, as more pressure on him was put. Harun hacked at the jinni's foot with all his might, but he saw it was futile, that he had lost the fight. With the last of his life and his magic will, all his power into his sword he did instill, and he threw it upwards like a dart. The blade flew right into the jinni's heart. It was a mortal blow, inflicted upon the foe, and with a roar, an awful last ghastly dying cry, the jinni crushed the Sultan, and Harun then did die. The jinni and its darkness then vanished. and thus in the battle both had perished. The people wept for the loss of a glorious man, for the wisdom and courage of his reign's too short span. But no sooner was the corpse cold than arguments were had about who would now rule the city of Kaikobad. Jafar, not willing to let things into chaos slide, aggressively his power on the city applied. The vizier called on the princess and said, "I don't wish to apply duress, but the solution to our problem is clear. Yasmin, I need you to marry me, my dear. Then I shall be able to assume the throne, and no more chaos in this city shall be sown. And don't think I shall play a cold husband's part, for indeed I have always loved you in my heart." But Princess Yasmin would not have it so be, for she was in love with the foreign prince, Ali. "I cannot to such a wedding give consent, for I wish not from Ali's arms to be rent. Though it pains me for your love to thus smother, what can I do, when my own heart loves another?" At these words the vizier was taken aback. It was as if his heart right then did split and crack. After all, is any one of us really above even a little pang when rejected by love? And Jafar felt through his being the strain of his dreams sinking in emotional pain. In anger he ordered Yasmin to her room confined, and Prince Ali was into the dungeons consigned. She was told that until she and the vizier would marry, that her beloved Ali would in the dungeon tarry, and in those dank cells be kept, at which the princess wept. But for now, let my story meander slightly astray, upon a desert oasis on the caravan way. Abu Nawas, desert hermit, sat under a palm. The still waters of the oasis sparkled with calm. He chewed on his dates and he sipped on his wine, dreaming up poems both wonderful and divine. But then Abu's eye did settle upon a stranger, a handsome fellow, clearly used to a little danger. He had a step that knew no slack, and dressed he was all in black. He rode a magnificent mare, that carried him where he'd fare, and an exquisite sword hung ready at his side, for when his fate with that of villains did collide. When our hero came into his view, this was said by the hermit Abu, whether at Nishapur or Babiloon, whether the cup with sweet or bitter run, the leaves of life keep falling one by one, and then suddenly this wine of life is done. Come, stranger, come drink with me my happy wine, and let's laugh at this world both horrid and fine. Make the most of what we yet may spend, before the two of us into the dust descend. The hero answered, "No time have I for wine and laughter. It is yet another adventure for which I'm after. Yet another chance to do valiant deeds, to help those who cannot help their own needs." Such noble words come sweetly floating on your breath. Yet I can see about you the aura of your death. For your deeds you will end up paying with your life. Why foolishly fight for others with your strife? Of your notions let yourself be free, and come sit here under my palm tree. Let's drink to life and drink to death and smack our lips with song, and when we die some other one shall pass the cup along. And if that bores you, let's find some city, full of girls both willing and pretty. Live for yourself, chase the girls or chase the wine, and stop chasing that which is no concern of thine. At these words our hero sighed, and thus to the hermit he replied, "It's not for me to choose where goes my fate, when all my soul upon my task does fixate. Some are born to exploit and to destroy. In evil and lies shall always be their joy. Most are born to a sort of mediocrity, a mixture of selfless and selfish to be. Then there are a few who cannot help but to sacrifice, for the sake of others, they're willing to pay the price. To ask me only of myself to be thinking is like asking me to live without breathing. In each fiber of my being lies my destiny. I'd have more luck measuring the breadth of eternity. Therefore I must go to the city of Kaikobad to see what further adventures are to be had." Abu Nawas spoke, after sipping from his flask. "Well, you insist on taking upon yourself this task, and who am I to argue with those arguments of thine? My own poor thoughts have never been deep, except in wine. A riddle I shall give to thee, and the answer you'll bring back to me. What's a virtue for the weak, an ornament for the strong? What brings about extinguishment of all that is wrong? What is the most precious thing one can give, that can make those meant for death to live?" To which our hero did reply, To answer your riddle I will try, and I promise the answer back to you to bring. Until then, farewell, and blessed be the songs you sing." And the nameless traveller then onward rode, his loyal steed the caravan way bestrode. Upon the city of Kaikobad fell the starry night, and Prince Ali longingly gazed upon each starry light, through his cell's barred window grate, while he contemplated his fate. He was locked away in a dungeon damp, and in the darkness sat without a lamp. He could hear faintly in the air the sound of whistling, happy and fair. Suddenly he sang a prayer up to the stars, letting the sounds drift up to the window bars. "O gods, up to the sky my pleas now do fare, though I was never sure if about us you care. But now for any straw I will be happy to grope, for I have lost all except for the power of hope. Gods, as you gaze down from your celestial height, won't you send some miracle to save me from the night?" And then a voice drifted down, "Prince Ali, though I would not a god pretend to be, yet in this your darkest hour, gladly I shall yourself empower. Your Princess Yasmin lies locked in the highest tower. If you'd only be brave, and fight your way to her bower, then I foresee that all shall indeed end well. Though to courage I cannot yourself impel, you will have to make the decision, on whether or not you trust my vision." Prince Ali stood up, and he replied to that voice, "Gladly I will fight, even if to death leads my choice. If you help me escape, I will charge even into hell, to save my Princess Yasmin from all that is foul and fell." Suddenly the bars fell out the window, and dropped and clanked on the floor below. Down from the sky dropped a rope, which Ali eagerly did grope, and upwards to happy freedom he did caper. Thus he turned from prisoner to an escaper. He climbed out his cell, eager his saviour to meet, and, who else? 'Twas our nameless hero that he did greet. Suddenly through the night air came singing the horrid sound of alarum bells ringing. "It appears that your escape has been spotted. Alas, we have no time for plans to be plotted. Here's a sword, I borrowed it from the guard who was here, and there's the palace gates. Go charge it without fear. After all, I left it unlocked, so make your resolve hard. Go forth, while I stay behind to fight off the city guard." Prince Ali ran off in the palace's direction, while the city guards drew near to voice their objection. But our nameless traveller stood in their way, with a look on his face like he was ready to play. Without unsheathing his weapon, he disarmed the whole troop. What a fight! The guards then ran away to try regroup, but while the hero was breaking the attack, and valiantly forcing the city guards back, Prince Ali rushed through the open palace portcullis gate, only to find some palace guards, who were rather irate. There was a rope. It the portcullis upheld. When used, the gate up or down was propelled. With one hand Prince Ali grabbed it, and with his blade the rope he slit. The gate crashed down, and Ali upwards flew. He laughed at the guards while shouting, "Ballyhoo!" Prince Ali swung onto the rampart and ran. Before the guards could swarm onto the rampart's span, he ran through some doors and ran down some halls, dodging guards in the midst of alarum calls, searching for the entrance to the highest tower, that he may find his Yasmin in her bower. Into the palace's dining hall his course did run, only to find himself outnumbered 100 to 1. Brave Prince Ali wondered at how against these he'd fare, when the guards saw Ali standing at the top of the stair. As the palace guards came rushing to him more near, all at once Ali forgot the meaning of fear. As the guards rushed en masse up the stairwell, Prince Ali with his sword the troops did repel. He slashed as they clashed, but as they started to overwhelm, he jumped from the stair, grabbing the curtain so that he could swing through the air. With agility he was able to land with flair on a table. He picked up a pillow to throw at a foe, and then he continued dueling on his way, fighting like an acrobat dancing in play. With furious skill and energy he did brawl, and he fought his way out of the dining hall. Rushing now here and then there, seeking his princess so fair, he managed somehow his pursuers to lose. But he was lost, and knew not which way to choose. When he heard a female voice, "Hey you, look here," and he turned to see a serving girl draw near. "Quickly, follow me," the servant did say, and she opened up a secret passageway. Into the secret portal plunged the Prince Ali. The girl sealed the passage behind them urgently, and the palace guards that suddenly swarmed there found that the prince had vanished as mist into air. The servant girl led Prince Ali by the hand. He hoped that this was not some trap that was planned. Finally, the two of them reached the exit portal, where he saw sights not seen by many a male mortal. For 'twas now in the old sultan's harem that he landed, a lone man in the midst of lovely females, stranded. "Oh, wow, look, it's the handsome prince," the ladies did cry. "The god is after you, what are you attempting to try?" "Ladies," replied the prince, flashing his winning smile, "from the prison I escaped, and now from clutches vile. I wish to rescue the beautiful Princess Yasmin, to save her from the dastardly trap she finds herself in." At which some girls swooned, others cried, "He's so romantic." Some ladies convulsed with giggles which were ecstatic. "Well, we knew that when the news came of your escape," the ladies said, "we thought we should help you in your scrape." "All I need," said Prince Ali, "is some way or power to get me into the Princess Yasmin's prison tower." "Not a problem, you handsome man. We already have for you a plan." Then the ladies set upon him, tearing off his clothes. They laughed as he protested, ignoring all his throws. Ali cried out, "What are you doing? What is this crime? You ladies are all lovely, but now is not the time." "Oh, shush, you silly man. That's not what we mean at all. Such a dirty mind. Do such thoughts always your mind enthrall? Now stay still and to our will acquiesce, while we put on you a nice veil and dress. The whole palace is, because of you, in a whirl, but no one would suspect you, disguised as a girl." Ballad of the Nameless Traveler by Tomek Piorkowski. 165. Prince Ali swallowed, he was trying hard to not be hard, and closed his eyes, while the ladies his body did regard. And then the harem girls put on him a lovely dress, and covered his face with a veil, and a gentle caress. And then it was mostly impossible to see that before them was standing the Prince Ali. "Off you go, lovely prince, your features we did conceal. You and our servant here shall now take up Yasmin's meal. Good luck, you ravishing fellow, our best wishes shall with you go." The servant girl escorted Ali back into the halls, not before the prince endured some more harem catcalls. And quickly but calmly they reached the stair. That would up to Yasmin allow them to fare. There were guards standing at the stairwell. One of them had this to Ali to tell. "Hey, girl, I haven't seen you round here before." "You look like the kind I'd like to get to know more. Stay here a while, and with me sit. Just you and me, babe, how about it?" Mortified, Prince Ali knew not what to say. He worried that his gruff voice would give him away. He pulled his veil more tightly around his face, and cast his eyes down in shy, feminine grace. The servant girl then did interject, "Hey, treat the servants with respect. While we are trying to work, please don't interfere. There's a place and time for flirting. It isn't now and here." The guards then laughed, and cheekily let them pass through. Ali got a pat on his bum. The guard said, "See you." Ali kept down his anger, focusing on his mission, glad at least not to have aroused much in suspicion. Now, as Prince Ali was to Princess Yasmin drawing near, the princess was being confronted by the angry vizier. Jafar said, "Why do you make my heart pine and pine? I grow weary of games. I demand that you be mine. I don't care for your refusal and your reasons why. If you don't marry me, I shall sentence you to die." Jafar drew out his blade, and he then ready-made at the Princess Yasmin to hack. She screamed at the impending attack. When suddenly upon Jafar came in all of a whirl, a sudden sword blocking his own being held by a girl. Jafar suddenly exclaimed, "Who can this be?" The girl revealed her face. 'Twas Prince Ali. "Villain!" Ali cried, "I am here to end your terror. If you think I'll back down, your thoughts are in error." To which Jafar replied, "Prince Ali, I must confess, I've better things to do than fight a man in a dress. Guards, come in here quickly, at once. The fool prince reveals himself, the dunce!" Swords flashing ready, the guards rushed in. Into the corner they the prince did pin, when suddenly a man came crashing through the window. It was our nameless traveler, wouldn't you know? He grinned and said, Sorry I'm late. I usually don't make people wait. I hope you'll forgive me for being so impolite. Now have at me. Let's have ourselves a little fight. Our nameless hero then with the guards engaged. A furious whirl of swordplay our hero waged, and under this flurry of attack, the soldiers were all beaten back. As the hero in this manner the soldiers did shew, he called out to Ali, The rest is up to you. Thanks, cried the prince with excited elation, vowing to be Ja'far's uttermost vexation. Ja'far and Ali then fought a duel, swords flashing, even though in address the prince looked most dashing. They traded insults as well as blows, a most remarkable pair of foes. How appropriate you have a dress in which to twirl. After all, dear Prince Ali, you fight like a girl. Better to fight as a girl than like you, I avow, for you, my noble vizier, fight like a cow. I heard your mother worked in the red light district. I heard the brothels put you under an interdict. You should know better than to be spreading the clap. If only you fought as well as your mouth can flap, stop waving your sword about like a damn mop. It's because I'm trying to clean your face, chop chop. Round and round the sharp insults went, as blade upon blade anger did vent. Finally an opening did appear, and the prince disarmed the vizier. Ali said, For all the villainy you did try, I suspect, Ja'far, I should now make you here die. And Prince Ali raised his sword to make the final stroke, when the Princess Yasmin's voice his concentration broke. No, Ali, cried Yasmin, don't kill him. He doesn't deserve a fate so grim. Princess Yasmin stood in between Ja'far and Ali. The prince put his sword down hesitatingly. Yasmin spoke. My father always trusted the vizier. He always spoke to Ja'far first when troubles would appear. The good he has done for Kaikobad cannot be measured. 'Twas his wisdom which brought the peace that we have treasured. Though after my father's death, Ja'far's actions have conveyed that to some starker, darker path his mind had been swayed. Yet I am still willing this man to forgive. Let this fighting stop, and let this man live. And Ja'far, realizing how his heart had led him to do an evil part, said, I thought I was about to go to my final rest. From where comes this mercy, as if I've been heavenly blessed? It's as if from my eyes has fallen a cloudy veil. Now I realize of my folly how large was its scale. For the sake of love I was willing to kill. How on earth did my soul ever become so ill? Now I feel like I have utterly besmirched my name, and whatever pride I once had is now turned to shame. Princess Yasmin, this Prince Ali is clearly brave. Having shown such courage in order you to save, clearly he is a hero like Harun al-Rashid. I'm certain that Kaikobad this prince will well lead. Let me no longer stand between this steadfast love. May your marriage be blessed by all the gods above, and let by right of marriage a new sultan be. Long may you rule, our future Sultan Ali, and unto me give whatever punishment you deem fit. My cherished life is yours, to destroy or to acquit. Then the vizier Ja'far bowed low, to Yasmin and to his former foe. The princess then said, My friend, I've no wish for your life to end. Yet you raised your blade against me. Some punishment for you there must be. I hereby sentence you to this trial. You are to be banished into exile. To make arrangements, I will grant you some time. Then alas you must go, to atone for your crime. His Ja'far humbly accepted. To Yasmin's will he now relented. Prince Ali, suddenly, exclaimed, Where is that man of mystery, who was so willing to assist me? Is he all right, after his fight? Then our nameless hero came back, not showing the slightest bit of slack. After having fought off a whole armed horde, clearly this hero is a true martial lord. And as soon as Yasmin caught sight of his handsome face, it almost from within her heart Prince Ali did displace. She found herself speechless from admiration, but Ali said the following exclamation, You're safe, you who make raging men look so tame. Are we allowed the honor of knowing your name? Alas, forgive me if I seem not to know my station. For certain reasons I cannot give my appellation. The traveler sighed, as he replied. Prince Ali gave the hero an inquisitive look, and said, "Don't worry, some mystery I can brook. The desert for blood is always thirsty. Thus some names carry too much history. That you wish not to reveal yourself, I understand. In any case, we will always welcome you to this land." The nameless traveler tried to give a thankful bow, but this the Prince Ali would simply not allow, proclaiming that from then on he was his brother, and there was no need for him to bow to the other. The prince to Princess Yasmin then did explain how the hero Ali's freedom helped attain. Yasmin spoke, "May blessings your life festoon. Furthermore, what can we do for you as a boon?" The traveler replied, "I do not ask for something dear. All I need is the assistance of Harun's vizier." Our hero turned to Jafar. "If you don't find it bizarre, I ask of you to assist in your able stead. I need your help to face the wizard Alhazred." Jafar's eyes widened. Then he spoke. "What horror does that name evoke?" That necromancer, flirting with insanity, brought Kaikobad to the edge of calamity. And I would not be surprised if it was his magic that brought about our Sultan's end, so tragic. We were never able to find out where he fled. Otherwise, long ago we would have had his head. What matters my safety, what matters my life? Gladly I will help you take him on in strife." Princess Yasmin then said, "Is that all you ask?" "Very well, let Jafar assist you in your task, and let his term of exile only begin. Once against Alhazred you've managed to win." And so there was happiness in Kaikobad. When the people learnt of a wedding to be had between the Princess Yasmin and Prince Ali, the town was abuzz with festivity. Ali was pronounced a sultan and Yasmin a queen. All said that they were the most gorgeous couple ever seen. And I think that you shall not find it amiss that I mention the wedding was sealed with a kiss. But Jafar and the hero had somewhere they had to go. While the festivities were occurring for the wedding, the men were already into the desert venturing and following the caravan road. They reached the oasis, Abu's abode. Abu Nawas greeted them with open hands. "Hail! You who have traveled so many lands, I see you brought the old vizier with you." Jafar spoke with wide eyes. "Why, it's poet Abu. It's been many years since from Harun's court you fled. We all thought that for long since you have been dead." "Ah well, sorry to disappoint. Death has yet myself to anoint. Gladly I ran away from that boor of a royal court. For politic nonsense you need to breed another sort. And so perplexed no more with human or divine, tomorrow's tangles to the winds I did resign. But enough with my verbal fiddle, I ask for the answer of my riddle." The hero said, "The answer is right here, within the mind of this vizier." The hero then repeated the riddle phrase, for Jafar with his wisdom to appraise. Jafar replied instantly, "The answer is plain to see. I was shown this humble virtue when I was weak. Like a jewel it shines when the strong it do seek. It managed my wrongs to clean allay, and from sure death it snatched me away. It's the most precious gift, for it allowed me to live. The answer to the riddle is the power to forgive." Abu Nawas gave a clap. "Excellent answer, my chap. I think as the riddle's answer I shall keep it, for to make another answer I lack the wit. Now tell me, whereabout are you two fellows going? Instead of drinking my wine, all troubles foregoing." The hero said, "Across the desert we seek Alhazred, searching for the hidden place where to long ago he fled. But we know not where to go, yet I suspect that you might know." Abu asked, "Why torture yourself by seeking such a foe? Live your life, just spend your cash, and let all your credit go. Waste not your hours in the vain pursuit of this and that endeavor and dispute. Forget the greater good and remember your own. It's all for naught one day when you're dead 'neath a stone. But I know that my words into your heart have not sunk. After all, what am I but a foolish man who's drunk? If you must go, then take a riddle with you, and perhaps an answer you'll find for me so true." "Give us your riddle," said the nameless hero. "Then if you'd be so kind, tell us where to go." "Very well, then, come closer, towards me lean, and for a moment listen with an ear that's keen. In the day shines the glorious sun so bright, and bright are the moon and stars sailing through the night. Sparkling is the armor and sword of a soldier bedight. But what is brightest, and source of all the spirit's light? Go find me my answer, you heroes, in ruined Imrim. For it is in that city that you'll find Alhazred the Grim. Jafar's eyes then became wide. In that cursed place does he hide. Imrim was destroyed many centuries ago. How the tragedy happened, no one seems to know. But mysterious things always happen there, and evil seems to hang in the very air. Do we really wish to go to such an unholy place, knowing that dark spirits infect all its time and space? Do not fear. We shall ride bravely in, and by wits and courage we shall win. So said the hero, and his horse gave a neigh. The brave mare was ready to go Imrim's way. We shall return with your answer, my poet. We shall triumph against the odds, and you know it. Thus Jafar and our hero began their quest against a foe. But for now my story must meander away, for others now in my tale must come into play. At the foot of the mountains near Imrim, in the light of a sunset glowing dim, rode a boy on his camel, feeling lost. Yet he pushed on, caring not for the cost. The cold chill of the desert night came on, but the boy ordered his camel to press on. But fierce brigands were camping on the mountainside. Eagerly they noted the boy as he did ride, and seeing a lonely target, they rode out. Of an easy picking they had not a doubt, but they did not bother to look at the sky, to take note of a bat that there did fly. Suddenly the tired boy found himself surrounded, with all avenues of escape utterly confounded. The thieving rogues laughed at the boy's small face, as fear across his eyes did piercingly pace. But the fear soon did dissipate, and the boy with courage faced his fate. One told him to give up his camel without a strife, to give up all he owned, if he valued his life. How can I give up my quest now, mister? I have run away from home to save my sister. Alone I wander the desert looking for Alhazred. I know my quest is hopeless, so I may as well be dead. I shall draw my dagger, and though you think me just a lad, I'll fight so hard that you'll remember my name, Sinbad. The thieves were angry at Sinbad's speech. They with bloodthirst for their sabres did reach, and little Sinbad, armed only with a tiny dagger, bravely faced these bandits that towards him did swagger. Poor Sinbad lost his weapon at the very first blow. He squealed involuntarily at his vicious foe, for the bandit had raised his sabre. To end Sinbad's life was his labor, when into the bandit's face flew a bat. The bandit had not been expecting that. The horrible rogue rolled backwards and fell on the sand, and the sabre rattled as it fell out from his hand. The thieves could not their surprise at all stem. As the bat then transformed before them, a human before them began to take shape, with a chiseled chin and a scarlet cape. His eyes had a look of courageous steel, yet through them compassion one could feel. Lines of adventure were etched upon his handsome face. He'd an aura of one who a hero's life did embrace. His bearing showed a burning heart that did sear. Through all challenges, not knowing any fear, yet in the midst of life's fiercest storm, his gentle strength would keep the guiltless warm. Now, said this man, I declare that you let this boy be, else you shall face me, last of the lasters, Count Dundee. And though you outnumber me, don't think you are dire, for I know magic, and I am also a vampire. I would advise all of you to flee. 'Twas so spoke the manly Dundee. The bandits, all of them awestruck, were unwilling to try their luck, and in fear from the scene they fled, no longer after Sinbad's head. Well, boy, said the Count Dundee, you should return home, and no longer as a target cross the desert roam. Sinbad was himself still rather dumbstruck and awe-stung, but he managed to finally put words upon his tongue. Oh, thank you for helping me out. Else I'd have been a desert corpse, no doubt. But please, won't you help me, mister? I need to save my dear sister. My parents sold her to some wizard called Alhazred. When I learnt of this, I took the camel, from home I fled, and have searched for her since. And though my chances are slim, I must try rescue her from that wizard's house in Imrim. Dundee replied, Do not ask me with you to go. I also have some unfinished work with my own foe. I have chased him across mountains and seas, through deserts and jungles. Before me he flees. Always he is just ahead of me, just out of reach. Yet I have a vow to find him, a vow I will not breach. Why then should I aid you in your task? For my help? You should probably not ask." "Master," cried Sinbad, "whether or not you do help me, I'll yet try to save my sister, for she's my family." Sinbad's words were like a dart that struck straight into Dundee's heart. He paused, and took a swig of pig blood from his flask, contemplating this boy on an impossible task. The vampire in that moment changed his mind, and decided he would help the sister to find. They made a warm fire, and in its glow Sinbad told Dundee the story of his woe. Alhazred one day came flying on his carpet. His face and body looked worn and decrepit. His eyes seemed to burn with a vicious rage. He had a long, dirty beard like some mad sage. His hands seemed like dirty claws when stretched out to reach, yet his soul seemed broken when one listened to his speech. With his gravelly voice, he came to their dwelling, with a purse of gold that seemed overswelling. He was searching for an apprentice, he explained, someone willing to learn, willing to be trained. He would look after this student well, and all his secrets reveal and tell. And to the student's family he would give enough gold that they may comfortably live. Sinbad's parents were poor, and the gold was such a lure, and although Sinbad's sister was clever, eager to learn, they could not afford to send her to school, as she did yearn. And so it seemed that for Shahzadeh it was a good deal to be made, so the parents took the gold. And then goodbyes were told. Then Sinbad's sister Shahzad went with Alhazred, and on his magic carpet away she sped. Though his family had never been so well-to-do, yet their decision Sinbad soon began to rue, for no amount of gold could ever buy enough bliss to drown the pain of having a dear sibling to miss. Sinbad took the family's camel and ran away, hoping to be able to find his sister one day. Not allowing his hope and his resolve to bedim, he slowly made his way to the cursed city of Imrim, where Alhazred had said was his abode. Then he'd been waylaid by bandits on the road, and that was how he now came to be, now alongside the vampire Dundee. "Very well," said Count El Asta, "I will aid you in your fight, but know that I'm undead, and can only travel at night. Let us get a move on until the time of sunrise. Then we will pitch a tent and sleep till daylight dies." So they journeyed through the cold desert nights so stark, their way lighted by the stars glinting in the dark, and soon in the silver shine of the moonlight dim, they came upon the shadowy ruins of Imrim. Shunned by travelers was that ruined city, and something about it hovered ominously. The full moon in the cloudless sky brightly shone, yet weak somehow was the light upon Imrim thrown. Though broken, the buildings seemed forgotten by time, but when touched they seemed covered by some sort of slime. And was that the desert wind? That whistling did seem to sound rather like the voice of a distant scream? And surely it was the imagination that did lie. That wasn't anything, seen out the corner of the eye. Those were not the shining eyes of some ugly creature. That scuttled away when the gaze upon it did feature. They walked along an abandoned dusty alley. Imrim seemed so still, so silent and eerie. In the midst of the gutted buildings, great and small, in the middle of the city, rose a citadel tall. Lights did shine in its many open windows, the only glow in a city of shadows. It was the only building complete and whole, in a city where destruction once did roll. Dundee said, "There is no doubt in my mind. In yonder building we'll your sister find." Enveloped by the aura of Imrim, poor Sinbad felt terror rising in him. But then the boy looked in Dundee's eye, and saw the courage that therein did lie. Big and strong and kind, like an elder brother, and then hope all his inner fear did smother, for in Dundee's eyes was a soul that chose not to be weak. It inspired Sinbad his own soul's inner strength to seek. And as his fear faded and courage rose, he said, "Yes, surely that is the house of Alhazred. I will save my beloved sister come what may. I'll try the attempt, even if I must die this day." The doors of the dark citadel were twice as tall as they. Quite sturdy they seemed, and thick and heavy did they weigh. The doors would not stir, though the two of them did heave. To open those would not be easy to achieve. Dundee would not be defeated. He summoned up his will, and magic pulsed through his mind and body with his will. The doors cracked under the strain. of Dundee's magic so arcane. Something broke, and the doors open flung, screeching on their hinges as they swung. They stood a moment, wondering if they'd been detected. But they stepped into the house, and its insides inspected. The house had a strange, uncomfortable smell, as if something within was rotting and fell. The house was lined with shelves, with thick book upon book, which descriptions of strange obscenities undertook. And they seemed to lure one's eyes to have just a quick look, that the words may one's mind into madness deeply betook. And strange instruments hung suspended here and there, their very existence seemed to poison the air. And their strange shapes followed a mysterious design, whose purpose was only for sanity to undermine. Sinbad looked upon this, and his mind threatened to break. With fear and terror his heart and soul began to quake. Who was he, after all, with such infernal things to toy? As manly as he tried to be, he was still a boy. Then he felt a strong, powerful hand with a gentle touch, as it softly and firmly upon his shoulder did clutch. Dundee reassured Sinbad, "Do not tremble with fear, my lad. As terrible as these things are to view, know whatever happens, I'll protect you." Sinbad never again in life knew the meaning of fear. His memories of Dundee made terror disappear. And Sinbad, later on in his adventurous life's span, would say that 'twas that moment he learnt to be a man. They walked about the house unopposed, that the place was deserted, they supposed. Though someone had all the hallway candles recently lit, no one was in the building now as far as they could wit. Then they heard footsteps echoing down the hall. The steps seemed closer and closer as they did fall. The two of them ready for battle made. But as the steps drew close, Sinbad cried, "Shahrazade!" Indeed, as the flickering light across her face played, Dundee saw what faced them was a beautiful maid. "Sinbad!" she cried out in exclamation, her eyes brightening with joyous elation. And as some happy tears came down her face, she took hold of her brother in tight embrace. "How did you get here?" she did ask. "And what is your purpose here? What task?" Sinbad to his sister his story then told, relating all the events that did unfold. "But are you mad?" Shahrazada then said, "If my teacher finds you here, you're dead. And even though I missed my dear parents and you, to say I am badly treated here would be untrue. Although Master Alhazred is very strange, yet a good life for me he did arrange. I drink well and eat well, and snack on sweet meats, and he's teaching me all sorts of magical feats. He sometimes loses his temper, but I've never been harmed, and as time goes by the master seems more and more becalmed. It gets lonely here, but otherwise I am well. I like to read when I have free time in which to dwell. I've no need my little life here to scoff. I'm sure there are many far worse off." But Sinbad pleaded with her to come away with him, and to forsake her training in the city of Imrim. Shahrazad could not resist her brother's entreaty, and tears started flowing from her eyes freely. Upon Sinbad's forehead she a gentle kiss did bestow, and she agreed for her apprenticeship to forego. "Very well," said Dundee, "let us immediately leave, before your master finds that we wish him to bereave." Although the sight of handsome Dundee made her heart flutter, yet Shahrazad managed the following words to stutter. "My master is due to return at any moment, and he might be a very formidable opponent. We won't be able to make enough distance. And he'll punish us for such intransigence, when he'll chase us into the very desert, and do the utmost for you two to hurt. If we must get away, we'll use the carpet of magic. We'll be far gone before he realizes our trick. Hide a while, and after Alhazred does return, and when I the suitable moment do discern, then we'll take the magic carpet and flying roam, through the starry night in the direction of home." So she hid them, and not long after was the arrival of her master. Alhazred floated through the sky above Imrim, suspended on his magic flying carpet slim. Back to his citadel he did go. He flew in through an open window, and landed gently in his study on the floor. Shahrazada greeted him, and to her he gave this chore. "Clean my carpet, and from your studies do not shirk, for tomorrow a test I've prepared on your work. Now I shall be going to sleep. All disturbance away from me keep." Shahrazad bowed. Alhazred, his aged body bent, shuffled off, and to his restful bed went. Shahrazad waited for a bit, counting each second. When she was sure, she, the two out of hiding, beckoned. Her eyes upon Dundee kept wanting to hop, but for the moment she forced her mind to stop and to focus on the task at hand. She said, "Don't just dilly and stand. Follow me into my master's study, and we will leave immediately." Upon the carpet Sinbad stood first, eager to leave that city cursed, when suddenly Alhazred came in, saying, "I forgot." His words cut short as fury boiled across his face, all hot. "Who are these filthy wretches who've invaded my house? What is that which is standing on my carpet, the louse? I hereby swear this oath, I shall destroy you both, starting with this rat whose stinking feet upon my carpet would their stench excrete." Alhazred flung a bolt of power from his finger. It hurtled at Sinbad without a moment's linger. But Dundee stepped forth, and with his inner magic will, he caught the bolt in his hand and made it calm and still. The vampire stepped forth, ready to fight, for Dundee was confident in his might. But Shahrazad realized how Dundee overestimated, how his power to Alhazred's approximated. She slapped Sinbad on the back, crying, "Go!" and off Sinbad flew through the window. Sinbad clung to the carpet. Imrim fell below his sight. He had no idea how to control the thing in its flight. He tried to make it turn, or at least to fly astern, but no matter how much he tried or did yearn, the carpet all Sinbad's commands did spurn. So, helplessly, without his sister or his new friend, on the carpet Sinbad into the sky did ascend. Meanwhile Shahrazad yelled at Dundee to run away, but Dundee was too brave to try escape this fray. He looked at the old man, and was overconfident, thinking that surely this old wizard's strength was spent. He moved himself into a fighting stance, and was about to forward advance, when our Dundee Laster found himself surprised by the fact that he was suddenly paralyzed. "Vampire," uttered Alhazred with a hiss of breath, "you're a fool to fight a mage specializing in death. You are strong, and if through your veins pulsed life, you might even have won our little strife. But I sensed quickly that you are one of the undead, and with little effort my power into you can spread." To prove this, he levitated Dundee into the air, then flipped the vampire upside down, without a care. Dundee tried to yell out, to cry out in frustration, yet even his voice was in paralyzed resignation. He had only the raging look in his eyes, to show how much his foe he did despise. Alhazred took a wooden cane, and said the following with disdain: "You break into my home and terrify my servant. Seemingly to steal my possessions you are fervent. Not only did you disturb my life with your ugly face, but my carpet is gone. 'Twill take forever to replace. Suffer, you wretch, suffer, as only I can make you hurt. I will make thee regret thy life and everything thou wert." Alhazred called upon his magic will, and changed the cane's end into a drill, and then he screwed the cane halfway into Dundee's heart. Dundee felt utmost pain, as if being torn apart. Alhazred loosed the spell that held Dundee in the air, and Laster fell hard, the floor thudding through his hair. Though no longer paralyzed, the cane kept him weak, and all Dundee could do was release a whimper meek. Pain pulsated through his being with every heartbeat, with blinding white torture as every pulse did repeat. Alhazred spoke: "In a way I have gained, you stinking gnat. I have never had the chance to research a werebat. A long time ago, you creatures were living things, enjoying sunshine and food and the pleasures life brings. But then came that dreadful werefolk versus demon war. Afterward it seemed that life had nothing of worth in store. Then your forefathers chose to exist in undying. I suspect that they to themselves were honestly lying, in order upon such an option to insist. For who would really want to merely exist? To forsake sunlight and food and drink, and into grey undying thus to sink? The vampires have long lives but no vitality. Your race is dying for the sake of immortality. You cannot even reproduce with your own kind. Always a human's life to your own you have to bind. And as you vampires slowly die out one by one, I honestly thought I'd never upon such have some fun. Did you know that the source of your undeath lies in your heart? That is why you're weak, for my cane is plunged into that part. I could have killed you, by pushing it through all the way, but I'd rather use you as something for my play. I will go sleep now, and in my dreams I shall devise such experiments that you'll wish for your demise. Alhazred, whose every movement seemed to weary him, forced his aged body to shuffle into his bedroom dim, and the wizard fell into that kind of hateful sleep that refuses to ever become restful or deep. Shahrazad, who'd in the corner been trying not to cower, felt well once not in the presence of Alhazred's glower. She walked over to Dundee, who was shivering in pain, unable to move his limbs, despite how much he was fain. Forgive me, brave sir, this was all my fault. I should have put my brother's notions to halt. I should never have given in to him, just to let you suffer because of his whim. Alhazred taught me well. I can remedy you. It will be hard, but I know what I must do. I can't just pull this cane out. It will rip you up inside. Please be patient. With this torture a little longer bide. Shahrazad gathered ingredients for a potion, ready to put into actions her mental notion. When she was ready, she spoke gently, kneeling beside the vampire Dundee. Understand that to save you, I need the power of life, to heal this horrid injury incurred during your strife. Did you listen carefully to the words I've spoken? The beating source of your undeath is broken, but I will repair it now, for such was to you my vow. You saved my brother, now I'll save you. One life for a life, a trade fair and true. My life I shall imbibe into this flask. Then all you'll have to do is this task. Drink half the potion thus made of my soul. Just half will be enough to make you whole. She put the bottle in Dundee's hand, that he could drink it as she planned. Dundee tried to cry out to stop her such acts about to bring, that she should rather let him die than do such a thing, but all he managed was to raise his hand with feebleness, unable even to sacrifice himself, so helpless. Shahrazad her very life force into the potion then sent, and the light in her eyes became dull, her soul thus spent. Her body fell across the Count Lasta, warm but lifeless she lay on the spellcaster. Hot tears of sorrow and pain came across Dundee's face, then within rose the desire to escape that cursed place. Despite the pain of moving his limb, to his lips slowly he brought the flask's brim. The movement was arduous and seemed to last forever. The pain was so hot, 'twas like mind and reason would sever. Finally, the potion into his mouth sank, the sweet bitterness of human life he drank. It tasted of hope, and somewhat of despair. Hate was in it, as well as love's tender care. Both ignorance and knowledge had a part in it, and dreams and laughter, and more tears than you could wit. Not a drop did Dundee of that potion waste, each nuance of each flavor he did taste. Some might waste life, but Dundee took it with all his soul. With all its measure of pain and joy, he embraced the whole. He drank only half of her life, as instructed, not a drop more. Shahrazad's life he thus respected. He pulled Alhazred's cane. In a wrench of pain, he pulled the damned thing from out his heart, and thus his life was given a new start. Quickly the potion its work did begin, and the magic power healed him within. Dundee Lasta rose and gently put Shahrazad down, and tenderly arranged the hair upon her crown. Dundee knew he'd not survive Alhazred's further reproach, and rose-fingered dawn across the desert would soon approach. To some place of safety. He would have to flee. He tucked the flask into his belt, the potion within sloshing he felt. After one last glance at Shahrazad, he transformed to a bat. Out the window he flew, his wings fast beating pat, pat, pat. Sometime later the sun shone over dread Imrim, and up Alhazred's aged body rose, his face all grim. He was an old bitter man who was stained deep with sin. Never before had he felt horror in his soul within, but crushing was the pain as he bent over Shahrazad, and hot were the tears his old wrinkled eyes then made. He was more accustomed to cause grief than to feel such. Now he wailed a pitiful cry, as Shahrazad he did clutch, and unreasoning wrath within him did grow, mad necromantic magic from him did flow. Arise, you wretched dead of Imrim, rise, and show the earth how much I it despise. March across the face of this disgusting world, let my wrath upon it thereby be unfurled. And then in the buried depths of that city, long undisturbed corpses twitched fitfully, Up to the surface the dead dug with their hands, till their desiccated bodies rose from the sands. To hideous life thus were the dead restored, and one by one grew this awful zombie horde. They shambled their bodies and did screechingly groan, and Imrim was filled with sound of baleful moan. The horde of the living dead then started marching out to the nearest city. 'Twas Kaikobad, without a doubt. Would any nation against this evil cope? Against the army, was there any hope? But before you think naught can avail, let me show you how twists my tale. For would you know, by Imrim in the desert near, was our nameless hero and the vizier? Jafar exclaimed, "Can I in my senses trust? There's no wind, yet yonder is a cloud of dust. It's as if an army is trudging it into the air. Shall we pitch a tent, in case it's a sandstorm over there? I admit that of desert journeying I don't know much, but I know it's best to shelter rather than ride through such." But our hero, with his amazing eagle eyesight, saw that it was a zombie horde, looking for a fight. "My vizier," said the hero, "that is no storm. It is actually a motley undead swarm. Looks like the first task we shall have today is to through these zombies cut our way." The hero's horse gave an enthusiastic neigh, ready among those ghouls to battle and slay. "I shall face them alone, with my loyal steed," said the hero, ever ready for noble deed. "Nay, I will not flee. Beside you I will fight. I've not come all this way to turn back in fright." So said Jafar, and for battle he ready made, withdrawing his sabre and bravely flashing the blade. Bravely they rode on, nearer to the horde. Ready was their courage, and ready each sword. But an awful stench did that army precede, and it filled with awful fear Jafar's poor steed. It unseated the poor vizier and ran away. 1,000 curses Jafar upon it did lay. The nameless hero laughed throatily, and said, "Never mind, ride along with me." Then they were in front of that dread army's path, 2 men and a horse facing all that undead wrath. The 2 men got off, while the horse did scoff, disdainfully at the lurching swarm, at each and every shambling form. One comradely look they gave to each other, ready to fight together like brother and brother. Their eyes started flashing in a way that seemed the following to say, "Keep going, plunge in. So what if one is outnumbered? Great things are done by those by fear unencumbered." At the zombies charged the 2 men and the horse. That the dead should stay dead they'd now enforce. Hideous as they were, the zombies were rather slow, and the threesome were fearsome in cutting down the foe. The traveller's steed went about thrashing, while the 2 men had their swords a-flashing. Though a good swordsman, Jafar quickly became breathless. Against the zombies he found himself less and less dexterous. Zombies are slow, lacking the animation of life. Even so in large numbers they overwhelm in the strife. Jafar felt his sword becoming heavy, and his sword strokes became less steady. Meanwhile the horse was bashing zombies left and right, and the nameless traveller fought with excellent might. But our hero, seeing how Jafar did falter, decided his battle plan to slightly alter, so that the hero's battle strokes then himself did steer, and then he ended up right next to the vizier. Our hero then fought for the both of them, and the horrid undead tide they did stem. Without fatigue our great hero fought, though 'twas a situation with danger fraught. For 12 hours he fought that horde, chopping up the undead with his sword. On and on the howling zombies came, but his courage was like a steady flame, and though the desert sun was blazing hot, not one drop of sweat his face did spot. Finally, with the desert strewn with undead torsos, the hero and the horse battered down the last of the foes. Jafar, panting and sweating, followed behind. At last there were no more zombies to find. Those wretched undying dead were at last finally blessed, to be allowed in that desert to attain final rest. For so ended was their unhappy cursed sleep. They had below unholy Imrim in the deep. Such was their battle, which had lasted till sunset. They rested for the night, then pressed onwards yet, for the battle against all those frightful undead had not weakened their resolve to meet Alhazred. No longer heavy with cursed souls was Imrim, and the air no longer seemed so cloyingly grim. Bereft of those bodies that the city had kept, it seemed that the evil from it had been swept. The desert wind blew in, pleasantly breezing, and the ancient houses seemed to be greeting. It was a thing to spread wonder across one's face, to be walking alone in that sprawling and grand place. Only one citadel still brooded ominously. It was the home of Alhazred sitting loomingly. The hero's horse was told to stay outside, and the two men inside the house did stride. Carefully they stepped through the darkened halls, listening for any danger between their footfalls. But nothing of consequence occurred, no danger at all against them stirred. Then they found the body of the girl Sharzadeh, dead, and by it a wizard weeping, Alhazred. Jafar, frightened at encountering his old enemy, was about to charge with his sword with a hand unsteady, but our hero pulled him back, gently restraining his attack. Then our traveler asked Jafar to stay calm, and told him not to worry. There was no risk of harm. The nameless hero then stepped forth and spoke in greeting. Jafar was in awe at the tone of this meeting. Alhazred looked up at the hero, and seemed not surprised, and the pain in his soul through his eyes went undisguised. Then the following was said, "By that wizard, Alhazred, I seem to remember, looking back through time's mist, that day that I began my dark powers to enlist. I was young, and willing to challenge the world, and did not care what pain at others I hurled. Stubbornly against all costs I did strive, to become the greatest death wizard alive, and proudly I did sneer at those who myself did fear. I treated people as my tools, and considered them all petty fools. Then I found that even the most beaten dog can bite the hand that dares against it flog. Happily I was experimenting on the living, when various heroes came at me all unforgiving, and great grief did Harun al-Rashid inflict on me. May his pig soul lie tormented, wherever it may be. And I was forced to go into hiding, for many years by myself abiding. And though here in Imrim I continued my research, a heaviness upon my heart then began to perch. I found that even a bastard like me longs at times for human company. The dreariness of the days and nights going by was finally eased by that brat, Mordecai. A more brilliant mind I have never met, and the joy he put in me I'll never forget. He somehow managed to inspire my heart to rise above its mire, a man of charisma, a man of hope, with whom all troubles become easy to cope. I hear that in the Oranai many his praises sing. From what I have seen, he deservedly is witch king. But he only came to learn from me what he could, and then he left me when he my magic understood. He would use my knowledge to raise Uzum to save the world, or bring about its doom. I don't really care either way. I'm old, and will be dead before such events unfold. But when he left, the loneliness was too great, and it seemed to me that spiteful was my fate. For what good were all those studies? Why did I commit crime, if my learning and sins would vanish in the sands of time? And all my wide studies of death cannot disengage the power of aging as it through my body does rage. Why be alone? Why should my teaching be forgot, when someone could apprentice themselves to my lot? And then this desert flower bloomed in my life, with love to take the edge off of misery's knife. How can I describe that glorious light that filled my vision when she was in sight? Now she is dead, and it feels like my eyes have gone dark, and I no longer wish to gaze on this world so stark. Yet it was by magic that her life ended, and by magic this life may yet be mended. With great will I may this girl revive, and she may yet again be alive. Wanderer, lend me some of your will, for my own magic is old and ill. I know I do not deserve the mercy of the divine, but if you grant me that our powers can combine, then the last leaf of a withered tree may fall, that a young sapling can yet live and grow tall. Surely a most fair trade. And the wizard's voice did fade. The hero consented, and sent forth his magic spirit, as a rainbow-colored mist from his fingers it did flit. Jafar stood back. He was amazed with wonder, as upon the magic his eyes did ponder. Alhazred drew power from the mist, as magic words from his lips he hissed. Then as he reached the climax of his incantation, power blazed through his body like a conflagration. Jafar squealed with some fright, while the hero looked all right, and it seemed the whole of Imrim trembled. And sparks in the air came, then disassembled, and most terrible seemed this awful magical science. Then Alhazred let out one last roar, as in defiance, and then he fell upon the ground. Then all was quiet, there was no sound. The flashing sparks were gone, the tremors did stop. In relief Jafar gave a glad little hop. Open were the eyes of Alhazred, but no breath he had, for he was dead. Our hero bent by him, and those eyes closed, and gently the wizard in dignity reposed. The mist of our hero's power came back to him, returning to our hero, but with colors now dim. And then, with a twitch and a shuddering breath, Shahrazad was awoken from the sleep of death. Gasping, she sat suddenly upright, her eyes all wide open and bright. I dreamt that I had died. She suddenly cried, what a terrifying and sad dream, and yet so realistic it did seem. Then she saw her master lying near, and she said, 'Twas no dream, I fear. Forgive me, master, for disobeying your rule. All this madness, just so that I could play the fool. Imrim had undergone an amazing transformation, Alhazred's mighty magic of reincarnation. Had not only raised Shahrazad, but his powers had also covered the whole city in flowers. 1,000 pleasant fragrances wafted in the air, and centuries' dry fountains ran with water fresh and fair. What was once dread Imrim was now to beauty restored. 'Twas again that city which in old times had been adored. Shahrazad made a request, to which they did yield. They buried Alhazred in a flowering field. Then Shahrazad bade farewell to what had been her most grim home. Back to the desert oasis the three of them did roam. And who was there to greet them? It was Sinbad. To the oasis the carpet had brought the lad. Once landed, Sinbad had wanted to go off straight away, but the hermit Abu Nawas persuaded him to stay. Clearly the poet knew more than he let on, else Sinbad would long from the oasis have gone. Brother and sister were at last reunited. With tears of joy were their eyes blindly delighted. Abu Nawas danced around them like a crazy man. He cried, how wonderful when things work out to plan. By the curls of my lovely beard that I twiddle, tell me, do you have the answer to my riddle? Jafar said, allow, poet, a chance to express an answer to your riddle which I would guess. The sun, moon, and stars shine through day and night. Shining are a good sword and armor bright. But I have just seen a dark soul overcome with light. A most evil man did a good deed before my sight. The brightest thing in the world, in spirit, below, above, is this wondrous, glorious thing called compassionate love. Abu Nawas then clapped his hands, and did a little dance on the sands. That's the most beautiful answer I have heard all year. To my riddle this answer I shall now always keep near, and now that of answers I don't need to think, I'm now going to have some wine to drink. Stay here with me, friends, and have a share of my wine, and pretend for a little while how life is fine. Drink, for you know not whence you came, nor know you why. Drink, for you know not why you were born, nor when you die. And Abu took such a huge gulp of alcohol that he tipped over and on the sand did roll. Shahrazad laughed, and brought Abu's wine-gourd to her lip, and of that pleasant wine she then took a sip. I'll drink, for what else am I to do or to be, now that I have no master under which to study? And Jafar said, why do you act as if your life is spent? I myself must go into exile. I'll go to Taskent. It's a famed university city, and since you are rather smart and witty, why don't you stay with me and go to magic school? I'll look after you, and then when I'm an old fool, you and Sinbad can perhaps return the favor. Shahrazad agreed, and called Jafar her savior. Then Jafar, Sinbad, and Shahrazad from there parted, with many goodbyes, sincere and kind-hearted, leaving the hero and Abu at the oasis. The poet to the nameless hero then said this, I know you won't listen, but I'll speak anyway. Be selfish, think of yourself for once, I do pray. I'm a sensitive soul, and I foresee all your pain, and yet you serve others, and act as if you were fain. Why obey the book of destiny, and what is writ? You know all your tears won't wash out a word of it. So Nawas called on heroics to forego, but such a thing was not for our hero. The hero said, some take, some merely are, and some give. I will die if I must, for so I was meant to live. Farewell, poet, and may you continue your dream, and inspire souls with many a lofty theme. Abu Nawas watched the hero and horse through the wide desert take a new course. There goes the nameless hero, destined to widespread fame. There goes one destined to die once he reveals his name. Here stays a once famous poet, destined drunk to stay. Here stays one who wishes to wipe his name away. Then he laughed, and of his wine he happily drank, and into joyful drunkenness he once more sank. The sound of a staggering shuffle awoke him, and the poet opened his eyes to the moonlight dim, to see the weak and weary Dundee. Stopping to rest momentarily, he was still struggling to recover from his ordeal, and ignorantly, for Shahzad's sake, still despair did feel. "Hail, creature of the night," said Abu. "In this moon's light, tell me, how do you do?" "I have failed to find the one whom I seek, and I have failed to succor and save the weak. A girl died for me, and when I returned to Imrim, hoping to wreak upon Alhazred my vengeance grim, I found my revenge apparently denied, for the wizard no longer there does abide. And perhaps because of the necromancer's absence, the city of Imrim is now covered in floral scents. I've nothing to do but to continue my quest, to send my father's murderer to his final rest." And Abu Nawas said, "I know you'll do as you will, but remember the warning that it shall be for your ill." But Dundee Lasta scoffed, and set his eyes aloft. "Such trivial threats will never keep me back. I shall continue my search without any slack." I sensed that he was here, perhaps to this place still near. And after saying that, Dundee morphed into a bat, and in pursuit Dundee then took flight, disappearing into the desert night. Thus ends this tale of our nameless hero. A nobler man you may never ever know. Of courage he really does evince. He saved a princess and a prince, and bravely slaughtered a zombie army of the dead, summoned by the evil necromancer Alhazred. End of Part 4. Ballad of the Nameless Traveler by Tomek Piorkowski, a fantasy epic in rhyme. Text copyright Tomek Piorkowski 2012.